Hmm. Sorry about that. Hmm. Let's see. All right. So today on the Lawyers and Podcast show, the propaganda of white supremacists, um, the white liberal media, and their propaganda as well. So we're going to be talking about the Buffalo shooter. We're going to also be talking about the shooting down in Texas. We're going to be also talk about what all this ties into, like a lot of these white supremacists who are tied into law enforcement. We're going to go in detail about it today on the Lawyers and Podcast show. And just take a look. We'll be right back in about 2 minutes. We'll get started. Authorities investigating if retired federal agent knew of Buffalo mass shooting plans in advance. Now, we already know that a lot of these white supremacists are tied in with the law enforcement. We know that already. There's no secret to that. Okay. But this is the article from Buffalo News by Lou Michael and Dan Harbeck. This is our fair use. We're going to give them credit. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for staying up late with me on the Lawyers and Podcast show. We've been doing like increments of shows until I finish the films and books that I got, working on now. So we should be basically back on live going constantly by the end of the month. So we should be going back to our 2 or 3 day regular scheduled programs. Article reads, though, law enforcement officers are investigating whether a retired federal agent had about 30 minutes advance notice of a white supremacist plan to murder black people at a Buffalo supermarket, two law enforcement officials told the Buffalo News. Now, started out great, okay, because they mentioned black folks. But as I go in details, as you know, white liberals, the white media, they always try to change and include everybody else into our pain and suffering. Let's talk about it. Authorities believe the former agent, believed to be from Texas, was one of at least 6 individuals who regularly communicated with accused gunman Payton Gendron in an online chat room where racist hatred was discussed, the two officials said. By the way, before we get in deep into it, please like, share, subscribe to the video. Hit my like buttons there. The two law enforcement sources with direct knowledge of the investigation stated these individuals were invited by Gendron to read about his mass shooting plans in a target location about 30 minutes before Gendron killed 10 people at Tops Market on Jefferson Avenue on May the 14th. Now, let's stop right there. My nose is itching. Sorry, y'all. But why is it that when a black person shoots somebody, he gets shot and killed? And when a white person shoots somebody, it's like they're able to basically bring this person in without harm. Okay. We just talked about the Tulsa shooting down there. We just read on that report where that black dude, he looked like a foreigner, somebody from a foreign town. He looking all crazy, like his eyes and stuff like that. They shot and killed him. You see what I'm saying? The one who killed the doctor and the other four people. I think it was 3 or 4 people he shot and killed, but he was upset with the doctor in Tulsa. That just recently happened, right? But they basically killed him. And then when it comes to talking about people like this Gendron character, oh, they basically spared his life. See, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about white supremacy. We have to go into depth into why this is going on. Okay? It goes on to say that news could not determine if the retired agent accepted the invitation. Okay? As we know, like a lot of these white supremacists like Payton Gendron and Dylan Roof, all of them are tied up to law enforcement. That was that the Kyle Rittenhouse, he was taking pictures of them, you see, with them. I mean, these were like-minded people who used this chat group to talk about their shared interests in racial hatred, replacement theory, and hatred of anyone who is Jewish, a person of color, or not a European ancestry, said one of the 2 law enforcement officials with close knowledge of the investigation. What is especially upsetting is that these 6 people received advance notice of Buffalo shooting about 30 minutes before it happened. Now, you see how the news media and law enforcement work together to paint this narrative. This man said nothing about Jewish people. He may, in his manifesto, mention that, but we can already tell you that he had help writing this manifesto. You see, and one of the problems that we are having with this particular situation is that this shooting that I'm going to get to as far as in Texas was kind of strange. It was kind of almost like this is a way for law enforcement to say, hey, y'all need us. See all these mass shootings around here? It was kind of strange, though. But the article goes on to say that the FBI has verified that none of these people called law enforcement to warn them about the shooting. The FBI database showed no advance tips from anyone that this shooting was about to happen, end quote. Agents from the FBI are in the process of tracking down and interviewing the 6 people, including the retired agent, and attempting to determine if any of them should be charged as accomplices. And they should be charged with accomplices, but they're not. The 2 sources with close knowledge of the probe told the Buffalo News. The 2 sources did not identify the agent by name and could not confirm what federal agency he worked for. The Buffalo FBI office declined to comment on the investigation. The U.S. Attorney Office in Buffalo declined through a spokesman to comment. Buffalo civil rights attorney John V. Eltmore said it would be outrageous if it turns out that the former law enforcement officer had advanced notice of the shooting and did nothing to prevent it. Thumbs up, guys, thumbs up. If we had advance notice, he had a moral obligation to get on the phone and try to notify someone about it, said Eltmore, who represents the family of Andre McNeil, who was shot dead when he went to the Tops to buy a birthday cake for his 3-year-old son. Attorney Terrence McConnor, who was representing several families who lost loved ones in the shooting, said, as outrageous as this may sound, based upon what we are finding in our investigation, it's not surprising he declined to reveal the evidence his law firm has collected. The New York Times reported May 17 that Gendron invited a small group of people into a private chat room on the messaging platform Discord to review his plans about 30 minutes before the massacre of the Tops. The Washington Post reported 2 days later that 15 people accepted Gendron's invitation into the Discord chat room and were able to review his plans and watch his live stream videos as he committed the killings. You see? This is what we're talking about. We know that these folks are tied into white supremacist groups, chat rooms, and law enforcement. We knew this. Okay? There's nothing new about that. Goes on to say that federal authorities are investigating if the retired agent provided information to Gendron before he went on his shooting spree, the two law enforcement officials told the news. In addition to law enforcement sources, two other individuals with knowledge of the mass shooting investigation have also confirmed the federal authorities are looking into the former agent's relationship with the shooter. See, and this is the type of things that we've been talking about, that they're all connected. All of these people, white supremacists, they go into law enforcement, they come out, and they basically are connected with outsiders who are in also in white supremacist organizations. You see, and we knew this, but black folks be playing a lot of games as if white supremacy is such a game to them. You see, and he targeted this store because old people shop there. Okay, he targeted this specific store because that's where the old folks shop. See, he wasn't gonna go over there where Pookie and Ray Ray was. He knew better. Okay, and so he shot where grandmothers are shopping. He shot where grandfathers are shopping. He goes to where children are shopping because he knows that these are easy and soft targets. And that's what the white supremacists are. They are cowards. See? So he didn't kill Jewish people or no white person. He murdered black people. Why is it that the white media always insist on trying to, include everybody else with our pain and our struggle? You see, trying to latch them on to our problems and issues. You see, they also just reported that the 911 dispatcher would be fired for hanging up on a woman who was whispering, or somebody who was whispering in the freezer that there was an active shooting there, and she was like, "Ma'am, you're whispering. I'm gonna hang up on you," which they're not supposed to do. They're supposed to call back, which also make this whole situation, whole scenario, kind of like eerie to believe. Anyway, you see, this is really kind of like a planned attack that, with the help of these 6 people, including law enforcement, you'll see how this really took place. You see, crime is actually down in America. So the police have to create crime so they could basically say, see, y'all need the police. Y'all need us, you see. And this is what this is all about. You see, this is why, I'm just basically just wishing that Joe Biden leave office. Liberals in office is always going to be the same propaganda every time. So I wanted to come in. I know I've been away for about 2 weeks, but like I said, we're going to have, we'll get back to normal around the end of July, in the first or second week of August. You'll be seeing us going on these white supremacists every time we come as well on live. Okay. So we have to talk about this. Okay. And let's go to the other shooting. I wanted to also talk about the Texas shooting too. In the Texas shooting, the parents kept on telling the police to go in. Hey, there's a shooter, inside. Go in. That's what they kept on telling the police. And the police was saying, no, we're not going to go in. They had 19 officers. And they just kept on talk about telling the cops, hey, go in.
I just want my baby home. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about.
Now let's go back and and see. Hold on, guys. Let's bring up this right here and show y'all something, and then we'll talk about it.
I just want my baby home. I don't care. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about nothing.
You come with questions, and would you love them? May we love their parents as you love them.
She was an innocent little girl. Loving school and looking forward for supper. And she didn't get to do that. And my heart hurts because I will never ever again. I will never have my baby again.
She's full of love, full of life. And she would do anything for anybody. And to me, she's a firecracker, man. It comforts me a little bit to think that she'd be the one to help her friends in need. There and then.
She didn't deserve that. She didn't. I just want to protect my little girl.
So the active shooter situation in Uvalde, Texas, happened, I think, a week or two after the Buffalo shooting. And they were saying to the police, you got to go in. The parents were begging the cops, hey, they had children calling the police as young as 11, 12 years old, saying, hey, we have a shooter inside the building here. Can y'all come in? The parents were sitting there, hey, why are y'all not doing nothing? You hear guns fired, gunshots, okay? And we hear all the time about how brave the cops are and how they're trained to go into a active shooter situation. And none of them did this. None of them went in. That's kind of crazy that it took I think he was a federal agent. They said they were waiting for it says a tactical team, not off-duty agent, killed Uvalde gunman. Okay. So this was kind of like strange that this happened like a week or two right after the Buffalo shooting. That's kind of suspect to me. When we talk there about law enforcement being linked to these white supremacists or these shooters, we know that they're linked to them. Okay, we know that they're linked to them because the evidence, the white media is forced to talk about these active shooters. The white media is forced to talk about what's going on, right? Now, I want to talk about this because it says here at least 19 children, I think it was 19 children, 2 teachers dead after shooting. Then they had like 2 or 3 other different shootings in other different states, just all around this country. Now, we know that America is a violent country. We know that. We know that it is, they basically, it's a violent country to be in. The white supremacists are cowards, and they use guns to maintain their white supremacist, power. among the people that is supposed to be uh, governed over, you see. But I wanted to talk more about how they said that the gunman entered in a door that they claimed that the teacher propped open. The teacher comes back and said, "No, I locked the door after I went and got my food because I heard the gunman um, come into the school, or it was already in the school." Okay. But then she goes on, or they goes on to say that the door did not uh, close right after she supposedly had shut it after going out and getting the food or what have you. But let's talk about it. An exterior door at Robb Elementary School did not lock when it was closed by a teacher shortly before a gunman used it to get inside and killed 19 students and 2 teachers, leaving investigators searching to determine why, state police said Tuesday. State police initially said a teacher had propped the door open shortly before Salvador Ramos, 18, entered the school in Uvalde, Texas on May the 24th. They have now determined that the teacher, who had not been identified, propped the door open with a rock, but then removed the rock and closed the door when she realized that there was a shooter on campus, said Travis Cassadine, Chief Communication Officer for Texas Department of Public Safety. But Cassadine said the door was designed to lock when shut did not lock. We did verify she closed the door. The door did not lock. We know that much, and now the investigators are looking into why it did not lock, Costantine said. Um, this was not really, to me, I think what we have to do is, before I read on, this is coming from the Associated Press, by the way, give them credit. I think that the Texas shooting was done in order to undermine the Buffalo shooting. I really do think that. And when you look at the history of this Salvador Ramos, who they shot and killed, because of course minorities, what it's telling you in active shooting when they're black and Hispanic, that they have to be killed so that the person who has been murdered don't have to basically tell his side of the story. Okay, that's typically the reason. Like they'll let people like Dylan Roof and this Gendron guy, and they'll let them off because they're white. Okay, but they'll basically tell them, "Hey, don't say anything, don't talk about it. We know you hate black people. We know you hate these folks. Don't basically say nothing. You should be fine." But when they get a random black person who supposedly had made all these killings, or you get a Hispanic person just like this Ramos character, then all of a sudden, these people are not here to tell their side of the story, which makes this more interesting when we talk there about how this all come about. Because, like I said, most of these shooting will come from the white supremacists. It comes from white supremacists, come from law enforcement. But when you have a black person or a Hispanic person just randomly go shoot somebody and they are shot and killed, then you're here to wondering, okay, so why did they basically not survive? Did somebody like force them to go do this and then they shot the person and then they went and did it? We don't know, but it's always something kind of funny and eerie about these shootings when the suspect is black or Hispanic. It's always like Now, this is not making sense to us. Okay. But anyway, given that it may be, it goes on to say investigators confirmed the details through additional video footage reviewed since Friday news conference when authorities first said that the door had been left propped open. Authorities did not state at the time what had been used to prop open the door. Considine said that the teacher initially propped the door open but ran back inside to get her phone and called 911 when Ramos crashed his truck onto campus. She came back on while her she came back out while her onto her phone. She heard someone yell, "He has a gun." She saw him jump in the fence and that he had a gun. So she ran back inside, removing the rock. When she did, Considine said. Steve McCrow, the head of DPS, hadn't said why the teacher initially propped open the door when it was first detailed Friday. The first mention of the door left propped open, which officials now say didn't happen, led to a question about the teacher's actions and whether she had made a horrific mistake. Since the shooting, law enforcement and the state officials have struggled to present an accurate timeline and detailed of the events and how police responded, sometimes providing conflicting information or withdrawing some statements hours later. State police have said some accounts were preliminary, preliminary and may change as more witnesses are interviewed. You see, you see how this active shooting stuff just had one lone gunman go into a school and shoot somebody, and he has no ties. There's nothing. Like his grandfather came out and said, "I didn't know he had a gun." So who drove him to the gun shop? See, all of this stuff when the suspect is black or Hispanic just doesn't add up. But I'm not saying we don't have people in society that are black and Hispanics are crazy, but I'm just saying it's just like there's no.
As of now, we're still working on this active investigation. Once we're able to provide information to the families, we will do so. First and foremost, obviously, our priorities is to get information to our families and give them some information. So please bear with us in regards to that. Secondly, once we do get some information that we can release to the public, we'll be doing that. So please know once we do get some information, we will share that with you.
Okay, again, to us, kind of fishy. Because a lot of people in mental health who go on these rampage, if you really look at a lot of these people that just, okay, for instance, when you go look at the Tulsa shooting at the hospital, you see how that guy was just acting very strange and mentally strange. People who act like that can be aggressive, but a lot of them don't have a history of just going out and doing things violent. They don't really have a history of just taking a gun, and then if you're showing them mentally ill, but then they're going out shooting random people, it just doesn't make sense. And that's the reason why Hispanic suspects, black suspects, they get shot and killed, because when you evaluate this, you will see that after you interview these people, that they just basically sometimes it's not in their mind or in their right mind to go pull off what the police said. You see what I'm saying? Especially in the Tulsa investigation. See, that just happened as well. So I'm kind of leery about the Uvalde gun situation. The Uvalde situation is also taught with law enforcement. Okay, and I think this was, I just don't believe that this guy would just went and just kill students. You see what I'm saying? And the 19 police officers who were supposed to go in was ordered not to. I just don't understand. So when a person has mental health, that's the reason why I don't like to go to the hospital and get medicine. Because when a person has mental health and they're in a psychic ward or they're in a certain type of institution, then who has control over them is that institution and the police, which make it more dangerous that these people can be propped to go do anything with the help of the police and the institutions, you see. So I'm kind of leery as to why this guy was shot and killed with 19 police officers, other police officers in nearby in nearby cities saying, "Hey, you got to go in there." And then you had the federal agent that or went over, or federal agents or whoever. First, they said one federal agent went in there, and then they're saying that there's a tactical squad. We don't know because they keep on lying, right? So it's kind of strange as to when the suspect is black, and now we're seeing a Hispanic guy that the police shoot them dead. Understand? Because we don't see a history of black people with mental health and Hispanic people with mental health that would go on a rampage like this. We have not experienced that in this society. Now, whether or not that the police is in on this, which I believe they are, they're trying to say, see, this is the reason why you need the police. You can't defund us. Look at all of these crimes going on. Look at all these active shooters. So you need the police. And yet you had 19 police officers who refused to go and get this one guy. You see what I'm saying? It is almost like these people put a gun in his hand and said, go shoot. See? And so my thing about this is that I'm kind of leery on this one. Like I said, I think he was a Haitian guy that went into the hospital down there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the active shooting in Texas in Uvalde, kind of to me, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that this man acted alone. Sorry, in both of those cases. Okay, we know that the white supremacists in Buffalo didn't act alone. We know that he had law enforcement and other people because he told them to go into his chat room and look at what he's about to do. You see? But as far as these other shootings where the suspect supposedly be black and Hispanic, even like I said, in a mental situation, we still don't show them resulting in that type of violence. They may basically be aggressive towards the person who is trying to help them in a mental capacity situation, but they don't randomly just get up and pick a gun and just shoot someone. So this is kind of like, and that's possibly the reason why they had to kill him, you see, so that he won't be able to tell his side of the story. And just like the Haitian dude down in Tulsa, you see, I'm kind of just eerie about this. And there's a lot of back and forth lies going on in Texas right now with the officials and stuff like that. And it goes back to the parents. The parents were saying, "Hey, y'all need to go into the school. Look, there's a shooter inside there." The kids were inside calling them, and 19 officers just didn't go inside. That's kind of suspect. It is almost like they just said, "Okay, go in there and have a free for all with these kids." You see, and this was help y'all to support the police. That's what I'm getting. I could be wrong. I could be looking too deep into it, but it just didn't make sense that you had 19 cops outside and didn't go in on this one suspect. And then you had a tactical squad that went in and then killed him, you see. It doesn't make sense to us. It just doesn't, you see. Now, they're trying to erase this Buffalo shooting already. They're trying to inundate it with different types of other people. They all, like I said, going back to what I said earlier, trying to attach everybody else with our pain and our suffering. This is what the white media loves to do. So we have to look at their propaganda, understand it. See, this old civil rights generation was caught off guard when they allowed the white media to say people of color, when they allowed them to say minorities and things of that nature. They were caught off guard with that. Civil rights generation was. And now this is the reason why a lot of people don't look at the news. But when they look at the news, they know that if you can get a lot of people to shoot into these schools, shoot into restaurants, shoot into hospitals, this is a way for you to say, see, we need government. You see, we need the white media because they're the first one on the scene and stuff like that. This is to draw the majority of the American people attention who have said that they did not want to, to support the police. They want the police to fund. They also did not want to buy the white supremacists in their newspapers. I think this is kind of like a way to bring us back into it. And the question is, will this propaganda work? We always talked about active shooting situations, and the police is trained to as well on active shooting situations. They're provided all types of techniques in their tactical units as well. And so this is why a lot of times when this stuff happens, it just doesn't add up. And then, like I said, if the victim is a person of color, if you want to use that word, but specifically black and Hispanic, then all of a sudden they're shot dead. Okay? That's only for us not to get the real evaluation from the suspect themselves, you see. See, when Dylan Roof went in and shot those 9 people in that church, and they took him to Burger King, right? See, that was a white supremacist that was basically filled with hatred. So we knew how he felt about black people. That's the reason why we're not going for, this manifesto here with these pages, because we knew that this young boy, 18, had helped in his manifesto. He didn't write this by himself. That manifesto by himself, going back to the Buffalo situation. He didn't write that by himself. He had major help. You see what I'm saying? He didn't go and shoot Jewish people. He shot black folks. You see what I'm saying? And so this is what we're talking about when we talk there about what the white media trying to erase our existence, trying to erase our plight, our struggle. And they just can't do it. See, that technique worked on the old civil rights generation, not with us. The black grassroots, we are always on the job. Okay? We are always thinking things, it's just doesn't. Well, that is the music. The Lawyers and Podcast show is wanted to just come in and talk to you about this active shooter situation, especially this Payton Gendron. Now, the charges, of course, is kind of laughable because at first they were saying, well, we can just charge him with 1. He'll be convicted with all 10. No. What we're wanting is him to be convicted of all 10 counts because he shot 10 people in a Buffalo shooting. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to just say, we'll count him with 1 count of terrorists and all this stuff. They're acting funny style down there. See, when the victim is black, they always try to come up with these different laws and stuff. So we're watching carefully. They're trying to basically make sure that they move on to the Texas and other types of so-called active shooters situations so we forget about what these white supremacists have done. We have to stay on to make sure that they basically charge this Buffalo massacre white supremacists in Buffalo with adequate charges. Let's not let them get away with that. Okay. All right, so I will come on tomorrow because Dr. Umar Johnson is in the press again. Dr. Johnson was talking to a white girl, some Persian female, and man, Black YouTube just went haywire. Has the Prince of Pan Africanists, left the Black Queens and went on to his white or Persian queens now. We'll talk about it tomorrow on a special edition of the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Take care.